So now we're going to build on that knowledge of keyframing. We've done an image. We're now going to move on to video. So I'm just going to delete that. I know you put so much work in something, you just get rid of it. It's fine. It's absolutely fine. So let's get to where is this? This is the clip that I'd said earlier that we're going to animate. And just to remind you, this is the sequence running up to it. Yeah. Log fires, open flames, and a good char on the food being served. That is why our biggest focus for... So on this bit, the music comes back in. We're then looking up into the oven and we have that lovely warm boom of the music. That is why our big... So what I want to do is I want to punch in a little bit at the beginning, so we're kind of slowly growing out. And first and foremost, I don't really want to be all the way out here. I want to finish a little bit further inside. So before we start any keyframing, I'm just going to get it framed up exactly how I want it. And I'm thinking maybe zoom in a little bit there, and maybe let's bring on our safe margins. That's our center. Maybe no, let's have it centered. So center and middle. So we're kind of working off there. We're slightly off center, but that's I'm happy with that. So what I'm going to do with this is I'm going to set the keyframe for both the position and the scale, because I know that we're affecting both the position and the scale. Or I'm almost certain we're definitely going to be affecting the scale, but just in case we need to change the position at the beginning, we're going to set a keyframe for both of those. So again, with the stopwatch, we'll set that keyframe and we'll set that keyframe. Now, as you can see, we're not right at the end, but I want this running right to the end. So as we've done before, draw a marquee over them, push them all the way to the end. It's only a little bit. And now back in the timeline, we're going to press up once to get to the beginning of the clip, but that doesn't get us to the beginning of the clip. Why is that? That's because it's reading the edge of the clip from the audio as well. That's no problem. I'm quite happy with leaving that happening. So we just press up again and we go to the end of the next clip on an active track, which is V1, which is where we want it to be. So I'm now going to set a keyframe for both the position and the scale. I think, as I said, definitely going to be setting a keyframe for the scale. Let me actually leave those on. And okay, let's shall we click that? Well, we can, but the minute we change a property on a part that has keyframing toggled on, it will automatically create a keyframe. So we'll let the system do it for us. So let's zoom in a little bit, maybe to about there. And as you can see, not only has it scaled up as we were saying, but it's actually created that keyframe. Now, I don't know about you, but I think that the flames are a little bit high up in the image here. So I'm going to bring that down a little. Just and maybe a little bit over to the left. Yeah, happy with that. Now, I've started the first keyframe right at the beginning of the clip, and the last keyframe is right at the end of the clip. So you'll see as we play it back, I don't need to add any ease out or ease in, because I don't need to show when that movement starts and when that ends, because we're having the movement going all the way from the beginning to the end of the clip, it will actually look like we've done it in camera, with the camera, not in the edit or post processing, which is what all editing is. You'll do it in post. It's actually a well-known term in the industry, especially with videographers, where you're like, oh, should I do this? Should I do that? That's right, I'll do it in post. I hadn't thought about it at the time, but I could have easily have thought, okay, well, I'll hold the camera still, just get a load of this, and I'll do a slow zoom out in post. It's probably safer with this current subject because it's fire, and I don't really want to be pushing my lens and the plastic parts of that lens inside a pizza oven that is aiming to get over 400 degrees Fahrenheit. It's probably not going to be good for it. I was actually on an 18mm lens, so I was actually pretty much all the way outside. So punching in and creating this is almost, well, we're achieving something that probably couldn't be done in real life. And that's the beauty of being able to edit after the fact. So now that we have the punch in here and we're coming to the new end, the new position, let me go back one here, which again, don't forget, is actually more zoomed in than the original is. We're still at 133%. Let's play this back and let's see what we've animated. Being served. That is why our biggest focus for our good. Now, the thing is, I think that zoom out is a little bit fast. That is why our biggest, and we could slow that down, but the problem with slowing that down would mean that we're in this clip longer and that would affect everything else. So what we want to do is we want to change the values of the scale, because the speed of the zoom out is dictated by the different values. It's the 191, let me just bring this up a little bit, the 191 to the 133. So we either need to start in less or come out less. I'm going to opt for coming out less, but I'm going to just bring these two up here so I can work on them easier. And I'm going to punch in a little bit more. Let's just remind, we're at 191 and we've come out by 60%. So maybe let's go in and let's maybe half that. Bring that down. Where's my safe margins? Not everything has to be obviously centered, but I want this to be centered. So at least close to center. So let's see how that does. So I've changed the value of the scale, which will then affect where I am in position. So let's just grab those, put them back to the end, and let's see the speed of that zoom out being served. That is why our biggest focus for, that's better, isn't it? You can tell that that is better. It's just, it's a much slower, it's more elegant, it's more, dare I say, it looks more expensive on the food being served. That is why our biggest focus for, and because this is shot in 100 frames a second, so we set it to 25 frames a second, so it's 25% of the speed. That with the slow zoom, that gives everything, doesn't it? That is why our biggest focus for, love that, really, I just love that. That's brilliant. Now, with that in mind, let me just very quickly explain. When we were looking at these transitions before, and I am going to do a full section. If you look down on your worksheet, I'm going to do a full section on Premiere Composer and the transitions. But let's say, just take the zoom, for instance. To do something like, not even the movement, the zoom in. To do something like that zoom in, can I, let's just tilde it for now. This zoom in here. To do that, actually that's really annoying my eyes. To do that takes a lot in here. And it's not as simple as zooming in and then going to the next frame. It's so much more, and we're talking reflections of different channels and doubling up channels and all that. So whereas this does utilize the whole effects controls, it will do it on something called an adjustment layer. And that's what we're going to look at in the next section with animating a crop. You can crop anything, but an adjustment layer is what we're going to look at in the next section to highlight something that you'll have probably seen in so many different videos. And it's a lovely effect. But I just want to make this point, just at this point, because we're talking about zooms and we're talking about movement and all this. You've seen how much it's taken. It doesn't take much. Once you get fast, it's quite easy and it can be done in a matter of seconds. But the knowledge that you need to be able to do that, then being able to do something like this, it really speaks to time over money. And that's something that we are actually going to be dealing with mainly with the plugins, because the plugins, although a lot of plugins do great things and can bring so much leveling up to your edits, most plugins can be achieved manually. Most, I'd say a good proportion of them. However, the time in which it takes to achieve that same thing would cost you probably more in your own time rather than buying a plugin. Don't let that put you off. Most of what you'll see in Premiere Composer that I show you later on is free, and you can use it with whatever you want. Anyway, we're getting a little bit ahead of ourselves. Let me just show you the starter pack. It's just yep. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. So that is our animating image and video up to now. We're now going to go over animating a crop. So this is animating a crop, and I'm going to very quickly show you in with our image, and then I'll show you how you may use it in here. Remember that we cropped before. We had a couple of images, a couple of tracks, video tracks on the same line, and we cropped them in. We can animate that as well. But we're building on that knowledge, and let's just get this image. Remember the pizza oven? We're just going to animate a crop here very, very quickly, because then I want to show you what else you can do with it. So if you remember how to get a crop, well, highlight this, and we're going to go to Effects, and we're going to type in crop and drag this transform crop either onto the clip or within the effects controls. What I like to do is I always like to drag it onto the clip, because say we're over this clip, but this clip is selected, we could drag this crop into the effects controls and start affecting it, but nothing's happening because we're actually affecting this clip. I'm going to undo. I think that highlights exactly that point. We really need to drop in a crop onto the actual clip that we're working on, and that goes for anything that you get in here. I highly recommend that you drag it onto the clip that you want to affect. Okay, good. So now that we have the crop in here, it now comes up within the effects controls going down. So we've still got motion, and all the way through here for position, scale, rotation, all them. We've got opacity. We haven't touched on that yet, but we will. Time remapping, again, we're not going to use that, and crop. So now I've clicked crop, we've now got the blue bar all the way around, and we can easily just start. Okay, let's not get ahead of ourselves. Remember with motion, if we tapped motion, we could move that around. Good. Same with crop, we can grab a side and bring it down. Hold down shift and it keeps the aspect ratio. Let go of shift and you're freeform with that corner. But you can use any of the other handles all the way around. Or you can use these, which that's left, that's right, and they're shown as percentages. And you can also see we have stopwatches. Yes, we do. So let's say we want to animate a crop from the side for no other reason, just to do it. I'm not saying that this is going to look good, but this is just showing you the technique. So let's say we want to crop the left from 0 to 25%. So we're going to go from that amount of time in the clip, and we're going to turn on the stopwatch. So we're stopwatching. So we've started a keyframe, and we're going to go forward a second. So we know that we're on 25 frames a second. So remember, shift and right goes forward 5 frames. So if we do that 5 times, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, that's a second. And now, as you can see, the playhead has moved along in the effects controls, but there's no keyframe been changed because we haven't either clicked on to add a keyframe, and we haven't changed the value of what we're keyframing. I'm going to crop in by 25%. So I'm going to click in there, type 25 and press enter. Cool. We've now cropped in by 25%. Because we're 1920 by 1080, or more realistically, we're 16 by 9. If I crop in 25% on the left and 25% on the right, we effectively make a square. So we're going to do that. At the same time, let me just take that back and show you. Good, cropped. It's a horrible linear keyframe, but we won't affect this easing yet because we're going to do more to it, and we'll do it all at the same time rather than doing them all individually. So let's go back to the first keyframe, and we're going to do the same with the right. So toggle on the keyframing and go to the next keyframe, which is when 25% is in from the left, and we're going to do the same, 25%, and hit enter. We're now, boom, done. Doesn't really look like a square, does it? Maybe my maths is off. Anyway, so we've now got left and the right coming in at the same time. If I go back and play that, boom, nice. Now that may have given away a little bit as to what we're going to be doing in the main thing, but let's just let's hold our horses. So I'm going to ease these. So I'm going to, remember, drag a marquee round, highlight the first two keyframes, right click and ease out, and then do it with the other two, right click and ease in. Let's take that back. You see how we started slow and then ended slow, but we ramped up in the middle. Ooh. It's just a much smoother, nicer way to animate by easing. I just love it. We're then going to do the same with the top and the bottom, but we're going to actually offset these. So if we zoom in a little bit, and I want to start maybe at that point. So we're halfway through, or thereabouts, halfway through the animation. I'm going to do the top and the bottom at the same time. So that's done, that's done. Let's skip again, and let's go forward another maybe 15 frames. So anywhere, either here or down here, hold down shift and go 5, 10, 15. In fact, let's make it 20 frames. I'm going to bring in the top by 12%, and I'm going to bring the bottom by 12%. Now this is where you need to be really kind of trying to highlight what you want and not highlighting what you don't want. Easy coming out here, highlighting these two, and we want to ease in with the out. But to get in here, yeah, that's where your tilde comes in really handy. Mouse over in this area, tilde, that's easy, isn't it? Oh, honestly, when I learned how to tilde, it just made my life complete. So we want to ease out with those. So let's tilde out, and let's see what that looks like. Good, huh? Looks good. In fact, I think they take a little bit too long. So I'm going to tilde in here. Yeah, you can see the space between that is a lot different to the space between that. So let's bring it up a little bit shorter than that space, tilde out. See how easy it is to move around the keyframes, and once you know what you're looking at, it's brilliant. Let's try that again. That's good, doesn't it? Good. So now that we've learnt how to animate a crop, let me show you what I actually want to animate in here, which will just, oh, it's just going to level up everything.